Welcome everyone to our webinar. My name is Michelle Reiki and I manage the Fuel to Go and Play project, which is an initiative of the WA School Canteen Association and is being funded by Healthway. I would like to introduce you to our team. We've got Carla. Carla, do you want to give us a wave?
Hi everyone.
I have Amanda Ferguson. Amanda.
Hi everyone. Sorry, I just turned my camera on, so.
And also to the WA School Canteen Association CEO, Megan Sawsier.
Hi everyone, welcome.
So this session is being recorded, which is why you have been muted. And for those of you that are not quite muted yet, please mute yourself. And we cannot see many of you. However, you can communicate with us throughout the course of the session by using the chat function. So, sorry, this is what we're going to be talking about this afternoon as a quick handover. And before we get going, I'd like to respectfully acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we work, the Whadjuk people. We'd like to pay our respects to the elders, both past, present and emerging, and extend our gratitude to all people in the Noongar Nation. It's a privilege to live and work on Noongar country. Oops, sorry, I'm going a little bit too fast here. So for those of you who are new to the Fuel to Go and Play project, it supports sporting clubs, recreation venues, food trucks and community venues and events with the provision and the promotion of healthier food and drinks. So we would like to welcome all of our sports club, our recreation venues, our food trucks that we currently work with. And we want to thank you for your interest in learning more about these new food safety standards and to ensure that the food that you offer is not only healthy, but is prepared safely. Thanks also to the environmental health officers and our health promotion friends who are attending, and we hope that you find this session useful. I would now like to hand you over to Megan, who will talk you through the session.
Thanks, Michelle. So that we can test the chat function, but also make sure that we're giving you the right information that's customised to the people that we have online today. If you can open the chat function, if you're on your phone and that's a little bit difficult, don't worry. I'm sure there's lots of people who are on their computer who can contribute. Open that chat function and pop in there. What are 2 of the most popular foods that you sell? It can be anything that you like that's a regular thing on your menu. And just to answer the question that's already in there, yes, you will be getting a copy of the slides. The slides and the recorded presentation will be up on the Fuel to Go and Play website by the end of the week. So whilst I keep talking, just please keep popping things into the chat function. I was at my niece's netball game on the weekend and it was freezing on Saturday morning at 8:30 and they were pumping out the tea, coffee, burgers and pumpkin soup as well. So I can see there's lots of different options going into there. Please keep populating that. And I'll just move on to the next slide. I take control back from Michelle. So I understand that a lot of people who work in our sporting clubs in particular are volunteers. It's a massive job. So kudos to you. Thank you, because you are the lifeblood of those small community venues. We've got some bigger venues online and we've also got some food trucks. So all of these standards apply to all food businesses. They are from the Food Standards Australia and New Zealand. So they are our governing body. And these new standards have been in motion since the year 2000. They included a big review to make sure that they were done. The review was done in a really comprehensive, useful way. And so it was a review of the issues and sector implications, evaluation of existing regulatory tools. So there's already a bunch of tools out there to help you prepare safe food, identifying gaps and new tools, stakeholder engagement, and then the new standard was launched at the beginning of this year. Compliance is required by the 8th of December, and it's up to the local councils who are responsible for notifying food business and also the inspections. And we're going to talk about what's actually included in that food standard 3.2.2. And not to scare you in any way, we're here to support you, and your local councils are also there to provide advice and support to make sure that this is as easy as possible. But it's important to remember why we're doing this. And Michelle mentioned we want food to be healthy and tasty, but we also want it to be safe. So you've got a captive audience, whether it's your own members or participants that come to your club, or whether you've got visitors coming in, making sure that the food is safe gives you good repeat business and a good reputation. So we want that to continue. And that's the whole purpose of providing great tasting food, but also safe food so that we don't make people sick. Our role, so WASCA and Fuel to Go and Play, is purely about communication. So we want to help local councils distribute this information. And I can see that we've got around 50 people online today, which is amazing because we can provide this information, and using the chat function, we will answer your questions while we can. If we don't get to everything, then we will publish a frequently asked question sheet afterwards, or refer you on to where we know you can get really solid information. So it's a legislative requirement, which means all food businesses in WA have a legal responsibility to comply with the Act, the regulations, and the Food Standards Code. So the new version, the new standard includes food handler training, appointing a food safety supervisor, and showing that your food is safe. And we're going to go into each of those three things in a little bit more detail. So the three things, making sure that your food, so doing food handling training. This is your online Food Safe or other online versions, which can be done for free. Most local councils will give you access for free to Food Safe, and it means that you can click through in your own time, and you will get a certificate at the end, and it's basic food hygiene and food safety that you'll be learning. Food safety supervisor training is one person on site needs to do that on-site training, the supervisor training, and then showing that your food is safe, so keeping a certain amount of records. There are two categories of food businesses though. So you've got category 1 or category 2. If you're a category 1 business, you've got to comply with the 3 requirements. So each of those things are required. If you were a category 2 business, you don't have to keep the same level of records. That's really the only difference. And if you're sitting there thinking, well, how do I know if I'm a category 1 or a category 2? It's really simple to figure that out. Based on what we're seeing in the chat function and your most popular dishes, I can see bacon and egg burgers. I can see wet dishes and donuts, hot chips, pizzas, kiwi hot dog, hot chips, nachos, coffee, toasties and muffins, burgers, sushi, sausage sizzle, chicken kebabs, bacon and egg sandwich. So lots of different options in there. Most of those all come under what we call potentially hazardous foods. So potentially hazardous food is basically anything that needs to be kept in the fridge or the freezer. That's how you keep it safe. That's how you keep it fresh. Anyone who's selling or making anything that fits into that category means that you are a category 1 business, not a category 2. So if we just go back to our previous slide, category 1 means you've got to do the 3 things. So based purely on what you've told us in that chat function, you're going to be category 1 businesses. If you're not sure, talk to your local council. They're the ones who can help you determine if you're a category 1 or a category 2. But keeping in mind all the training requirements are still required for both categories. Keep using that chat function. I can see that there's a couple of questions. We will be replying to them throughout that. Our team will respond to those. So your food handler training applies to food handlers that are handling unpackaged and potentially hazardous ready-to-eat food. So you need to complete food safety training. Food Safe is the one that we recommend. There's a few different versions of online training. The reason we recommend Food Safe is because it's quite comprehensive, but it's information translated into a really easy to understand way. So even if you've got people working with you that don't come in all the time or aren't that familiar with creating food on bulk or using a commercial kitchen or serving customers, it's a really easy training session to understand. At the end of it, you get a certificate and you get a bunch of templates, which will help you as you move through. Or you need to have the skills and knowledge for food safety and hygiene matters with commensurate with your food handling activities. So that basically means that if you had someone come in and they weren't even dealing with the food, they were literally helping you design a menu or helping you with the money side of things, then they wouldn't actually be preparing food. They don't need to do that training. But other people who come into your food service, your kiosk or your cafe, they need to be doing that. Food safety supervisor training is the big one. So you need to have someone in your club or your workplace or your food truck who's done the food safety supervisor training within the last 5 years. So every 5 years that needs to be repeated. You need to do accredited training, which means that it's 2 units of competency, and I'm going to go into that in a little bit more detail. They have the authority and ability to manage and give direction of safe food handling. So your on-the-job training that you provide to other people who come into that food service business. And they must be reasonably available to advise and supervise the food handlers. So it's the person that's in charge of the food service on the majority of the time. If you aren't there because you've gone on holidays or your particular child is in a carnival and you're competing somewhere else and someone else is running the food service on that day, that's okay. But you just need to be contactable so that if something unfortunate does happen and you need to provide advice immediately, they should be able to call you. So when you're trying to choose the right person to do this training, it should be someone that is basically in charge of running the canteen or the kiosk and reasonably available. Showing that your food is safe means that you're keeping records. So when we do this, we offer this training, and when we provide a bunch of templates afterwards, it talks about things like pest control, temperature control, keeping records of stock, who your suppliers are. If something does go wrong, we've got a register that you can record that. So some way of keeping all of those records about things that go on. When you do your food safety supervisor training, you'll be given really good guidance around what sort of records need to be kept for your food business. And then demonstrating to a reasonable satisfaction. So all of you would have been audited at some point by your local council environmental health officers. They come in, they check things off, they make sure that things are clean and tidy, they make sure that your fridges are keeping the right temperature, those sorts of things. So you need to be able to demonstrate that you're keeping food safe to the best of your ability, depending on how you're preparing food and storing food. If you are posing any questions, if you can add what club or workplace or business that you're from in your chat, that would be really helpful as well. Thank you. So where to get help? Food Safe Online is available through many local councils for free, but as part of this webinar and as part of our partnership with Fuel to Go and Play and Healthway, we will provide free access as well. So you just need to send an email to the Fuel to Go and Play team, and I'll give you the email address at the end saying, I was on the webinar, I want to do Food Safe, can I please have the access code? So we'll send you the details about how to access that for free, the code and the instructions. Otherwise, if you went through Environment Health Australia, who created Food Safe, it would be $35 per person online. So we don't expect you to pay that. But like I said, a lot of councils also provide free access depending on where you're located. Advice and support really is back to your local council environmental health team. So we can help to answer some of your questions as much as we can. Certainly today's session is all about that and just getting the information out there. Many of the local councils have already written to community venues, workplaces, restaurants, notifying them of these changes and the requirements. Because of the nature of a community venue, and particularly our small sports clubs, we know that they're not making it a priority to come out and inspect you immediately. On the 8th of December, I highly doubt they're going to come and visit you. They're going to be focusing on some of their higher risk, bigger businesses and bigger restaurants. But that's not to say that you shouldn't be working towards complying with the 3 requirements soon. And working out a plan within your club. For a winter club, your season is nearly finished. So it's not going to be a huge priority for you, but you've got some time to work out a plan so that next year you open ready with the requirements in place. But go back to your local council environmental health officer. What support have they got available? What templates have they already got available that could help you, that you could be making a plan with already? We do offer this training. So we have partnered with a registered training organisation who's been delivering food safety supervisor training for quite some time. We've partnered with them and we've adapted the training to make it suitable to school canteens and community venues. All that means is that our scenarios and our case studies and our templates are already customized to suit the way that a sports club or a school canteen would actually operate. So it makes it really relevant. You'll also be in the room with other either school canteen or community venue representatives, and it's those incidental conversations and lessons and sharing that we know that happen in those sessions that make it really valuable. So if you are interested in doing our session, we're going to send you an email after today's webinar and say, if you're interested, just let us know, because we've got a bunch of sessions already scheduled. But if there's a high interest from this group, we will schedule more so that we're available to provide that service. Our sessions are face-to-face in our East Perth office, but we're looking at whether we should be doing them virtually as well. So I know today that there's some regional representatives online. If you'd like to get involved with our session, then obviously not travelling to Perth would be ideal, and we can look at whether we can deliver our sessions virtually. That said, there's a bunch of other providers. So we're not the only people who are offering this. On the Department of Health website, which we'll send you a link to, there are a list of WA providers. They are equally as good as us, but it may not be customised to school canteens and to sports clubs and rec centres, and those kinds of case studies will be slightly different. But if online suits you because you can move through the modules in your own time, it's self-paced, that type of learning might be more suited to you and your circumstances, then absolutely. But we do provide that service as well. Your local council will be really useful in providing you details about who they even recommend and what type of training they recommend you do and when. So that was a lot, and I feel like I just went blah and gave you a lot of information all at once. I can see that there's a lot of questions happening in the chat function, and I might just refer to my colleagues. I know Amanda and Carla have been replying to you, and there will be some questions that I've missed as I've been talking. So keep using that. But Amanda, do you want to address something?
I do. There was just a question that came in from the Perth Dinghy Sailing Club. So I'm just scrolling back to look at it, saying that you have members rostered in the canteen anything from once to twice in the 6-month season to more regular volunteers. I'm assuming that you're referring to the food safety and hygiene training, which is just the one that's done through the environmental health and is about an hour to do online, and it's the one that Megan mentioned that we can provide a code for. So the recommendation is, yes, that they still do that training. It's pretty simple for them to do it. And importantly, it covers things like allergens and cross-contamination as well. So if you've got people that are coming into the canteen and they're rostered on and they haven't done the training, ensuring that maybe they just do the sale of food, they don't actually do any of the food prep is a good idea. But once you've got that code, you can actually provide that to other members in your club as well. So that's different from the food safety supervisor training that we're talking about at the moment, though. I think that probably clarifies that a little better.
Thank you. Someone's just asked if we can provide a certificate of attendance for today. Sure, we can do that. That's easy. We can email that out to you. I understand from some of the comments that I can see that this is a big barrier, and I know when you're a volunteer yourself, or even if you're in a paid position and you've got volunteers helping, it's a lot. I understand that. And the health department, when they were looking at introducing this, did so for good reason, but there are implications. And I think moving through this slowly, not expecting that everybody who works in your food service is going to be trained on day one, but having those structures in place. So as the supervisor, once you've done your supervisor training, having some really good procedures. So when they walk in, they can see, oh, okay, well, I need to wash my hands here, and having signage and posters so that that on-the-job training is a little bit clearer. And so this is all for registered food businesses. When you're a registered food business with the local council, this is the requirement for you. I don't have any easy solutions. I know trying to get volunteers is tricky. Today's session was about trying to help communicate the information so that you've got enough time to put some plans in place, and working with your volunteers within your venue. If you've got paid staff, it's a little bit different, because during their paid hours, you would be getting them to do the training. Carla or Michelle, because I haven't seen all the questions or comments, is there any other things that we've missed that you think we need to cover off on before we keep going?
Not really, just the most recent question that's come through about, you know, a club that only make $500 from a sausage sizzle in a year. And then you've got to factor in the cost for training. So we will certainly speak to Healthway, because if you're a Healthy Sports Club recipient, grant recipient, there might be some capacity for us to be able to subsidise the course for you. But at this point, we don't really have an answer. But it's something we want to work with you. We want to make it easy for you. We want to make it affordable for you. We get it. I think we just need to keep talking to see how we can make this happen seamlessly as possible for you guys, without you losing your volunteers and compromising your food service that you're offering. So we're here to help. We're here to, you know, assist as much as we can. And if you've got any questions, just keep asking them. If it's not today, further on down the track, just be in contact.
And I can see there's a whole bunch of questions that have just come through, and I feel we're not going to get to all of them. But what we'll do is take all of those questions. We'll take a printout of today and we'll type up an answer. And I can even see there's one I'm not even sure of the answer. So Nick's asking, would it be okay if one person on shift has the training, or does it need to be all? My understanding is it needs to be all, but I think that's a really good question that I'll take back to the Department of Health and ask them that in a sporting club environment, is it everybody? And what gets some concrete clarity about that I can come back to you with. Claudia is the club development officer for an LGA. Is it possible to hold supervisor training session for all my sports clubs and community groups? Yes.
Sorry, I just answered that one, Megan.
Oh.
Sorry.
Did you say yes?
I said yes, but the reason, and if you read that, my response is that we cap the numbers in our sessions to 12, and that's because it's a long day, and having a maximum of 12 people in a session just means that it's much easier to handle. And I think the beauty of the training is that it will be tailored to your type of food service, and you are left with tools and resources that can help you. You can also interact with other people that work in the same sort of space that you do as well. So that's the beauty, I guess, of the training that we deliver. However, like Megan said, you can do it online. The WASCA training is done in one full day, and the only task that you're sent home with is just a simple piece of paper that you jot down some areas that you're going to make small changes in your own food service. Some of the other ones that you'll see online, you do 4 to 6 hours online, and then you need to do another 4 to 6 hours in a food service as well. So, but really it's just about investigating what works for you.
So just one thing to recap, now that we've gone through lots of information, if I go back here, sorry, this one. So food safety training, like FoodSafe, is the free online training that takes about an hour, and that's the really basic food safety training, and everybody gets a certificate at the end of that. So as a volunteer working in the canteen once a week, once a month, once a season, everybody who works in there should be doing that free online 1 hour of training. And then just one person should be doing the food safety supervisor training, which is the much larger commitment. It's a much more in-depth training. So I think there was perhaps a little bit of confusion in the chat about who was required to do what. Like I said, I know that's a lot of information that we've gone through in a really quick forum. We will have our slides available as well as a recording of this webinar on the website by the end of the week. We will also address all of your frequently asked questions. But if you go back to work tomorrow, you've got a committee meeting tomorrow, you've got a training session tomorrow, and you're thinking, I need an answer immediately, call your local council. They are all over this about what the requirements are. They will also be more familiar with your setup and the equipment that you've got, because they're the ones who come out and do your inspection. So do use them as your source. But I can see there's more questions that is there anything else, Amanda, before we wrap up that's coming up as a constant question?
I think from the LGA's organising a group training session for the clubs that they work with is probably the best suggestion I've seen come through, which is fantastic. And yes, the answer to Natalie's question is that you will need equipment if you don't already have it. But we are also trying to source some economical ways to purchase those things like probe thermometers. I mean, you should already have things like coloured chopping boards and, you know, hand washing equipment and things like that. So, and I did see someone's comment about how about we apply for a grant to help everybody do the training for free, and watch this space. It is something that we are investigating, but nothing happens overnight. So yeah, we'd love to be able to do that too. And yes, we will post the slides along with the recording.
And we're really happy to send you a certificate of participation to say that you came to the session today and found out a little bit more. But please keep the conversation going. I know this is a lot of information. I know some of you are worried about taking the information back to your club or your community group. And whatever we can do to help you, we will. And if that's any consolation, that we're there to support you. And if you've got a Healthway grant in any way, you'll be meeting with us anyway. We'll be popping out to visit you. We'll be having our email conversations, e-news. If there's any kind of resource that you think would be useful other than providing the training for free, which we will look into, then please keep in contact with us as well. I think we will wrap it up then. However, I'm not going to go anywhere. So if you've had your chance to put your question in the chat function and you're ready to leave, that's fine. Thank you so much again for joining us. I will stay online, as will my colleagues. So if you've still got other questions or comments, please put them in the chat function and we'll leave that open for the next 20 minutes or so. So feel free to continue to put those in there. And Carla has just given you the Fuel to Go and Play email address again in the chat function, and I'll just move to the end of that slide so that you've got it on the screen there as well. Hi, Susan, I can see your hand is up. Do you want to ask us a question?
Didn't realise I could unmute myself, sorry.
That's okay.
So I work with Netball WA. I was just wondering if you, because I'm in the regional office in the Southwest, I was just wondering if you guys had any communication with Netball WA in terms of presenting this kind of information across to, you know, I think Fuel to Go and Play has presented a few times to presidents' meetings and that kind of thing, whether there's been any dialogue to that effect?
Michelle or Carla?
Yeah, so we spoke with Netball WA about the session tonight, and they provided information to the clubs to let them know to join. But Michelle, between the Fuel to Go and Play and Healthway partnership, that's probably something we need to discuss further.
I agree. And the other thing too, each of the different associations are obviously associated to different local councils. So
Absolutely.
We're still trying to figure out, you know, each local council might be approaching this differently.
I guess with my other hat on, I'm a Shire councillor at the Shire of Manjimup, so I've got both hats on at the minute, very much so.
Good.
And I can see that our area was very well attended this afternoon, so that's really good to see. But I'm just thinking in terms of those channels for netball, if there was already something in place with Netball WA, then that would be terrific. But even presentations at some of our regional forums would be really good, I thought.
Yep, sounds great. We'll chat to Netball and see what we can do.
Awesome.
I'll contact you tomorrow and just provide you with personal email addresses, and we can keep the conversation going from there. Absolutely.
Yeah, terrific. I'll feed it up the line as well. And I think that depending on whether it comes through those presidents' meetings or whether they come through the individual regions forums, I think this is really valuable information that, yeah, it's one of those things dealing with volunteers. It's complicated, but better to get on the front foot, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Susan, that's really good to hear. I know you're sitting there with two hats on, but it was tricky knowing whether we should even do this session, because we feel like our role is about helping clubs and communication and all those things. But at the same time, we knew that people would be concerned and walking away from this thinking, oh my Lord, this is a lot we've got to do. And we get it. But
yeah.
I think information is power. So we needed to be able to fill that gap and let clubs know what was available.
Oh, absolutely. And I was so pleased to see the session because, you know, I heard this news coming, you know, quite a while ago now, but there's been nothing in that space. And even having approached D or GSC, and they were aware that some education needed to happen, but from where was it going to come was the question. And so, yeah, thanks to all of you for putting this together, because I think even if people have gone away worried, at least there's all these resources now that they know where they can go to get some help. So I think, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Megan, there's just a few more questions in the chat. Did you want to answer these now, or would you prefer to we'll collate the frequently asked questions and distribute it?
If there's, because I haven't been scrolling, do you want to tell me what the question is?
I'll let you know. So will the local
Thanks, ladies. I'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Will the local council be in touch, re these requirements and the date that they are due to be implemented?
Yes, 100%. The local council will be in touch. So most it's really varied. Some local councils have sent out notification to all registered food businesses in the area already. Some have prioritised those higher risk venues and businesses, and once they get a chance to come out and actually have conversations with smaller community venues and sports clubs, then they'll be talking about it. So it is varied. Depending where you sit, but you can call your local council and have that conversation if you haven't heard about it from them.
And then once we've completed the training, does the certificate allow to register with more than one club, as a lot of volunteers are associated with a number of clubs? So I think that could also be with the food safety.
Sure. So if it's the supervisor training, so what I'm taking from that question is that there could be two winter clubs, so someone that's there, say, on a Saturday, a different club that's there on a Sunday, a different club that's there in summer compared to winter. It needs to be per club in my mind, because you need to be reasonably contactable. So you don't want to be contacted if you're there for football. You don't want to be contacted when you're not there and cricket is in that venue. So but that's a really good question. I think we'll get some clarity from that from the local council as well.
Yes. This is a different certificate to the Field to Go and Play certificate. So this is a requirement from the health department, this new training, which is different from the Field to Go and Play one. I think they were all the questions that to answer now. But if anyone has any other questions online.
Catherine, if you can unmute and talk to us, I think perhaps the way I interpreted that question was a little different to what you think. I can't tell. Oh, I have a toddler in the other room too. I get it. That's okay. Perhaps we can email you tomorrow or give you a call tomorrow if there's a different clarification you'd like to provide, and I can provide a little bit more information.
Can I just interject at that point? And maybe this is what you're meaning, Catherine, is maybe you're a mum and your son plays football and your daughter plays netball. And if you do the training, does that mean that one set of training is transferable for when you pop in and volunteer at the netball canteen, but then the following weekend when you're volunteering at the football canteen?
Yes, she's saying yes.
I think that's what we're trying to do. So if it's the food hygiene training, then that's fine, that's transferable. But if to do the food handlers, the new training, you'd have to be on site for football every week to be able to be that person.
To be the football club supervisor, yes, but it's your own personal skill, it's your own personal certificate. So wherever you go, you take your skills and your certificate with you. That makes sense. Okay, great. Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, everybody. If you've got any final...
one more question from Jody.
Hi, Jody.
Hi.
Oh, you've just gone on mute, Jody. Hang on one sec.
Got it. Sorry.
Yeah.
So that question was from myself. So once I do the training as a supervisor, so I'm with football, tennis, cricket, all the a lot of clubs. Will it allow me to register for each of those, or I do have to do the training each time and pay that amount each time?
No, so that skill and that certification is for you personally. So no matter where you go and what club you work at, that's okay. What the only clarification I'll make to that is that you would be the person who's on site the majority of the time and managing the food service, no matter which sporting code was in there, then that's fine for that club to invest that in you. Yeah,
Okay, no worries. Thank you.
that's okay.